Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. How do you follow Winston Churchill? I'm not sure. But I think it was a very good idea, Mila, given that we're the first after lunch. It's always good to keep people awake. I think it was a good strategy, let's say. And then maybe we can get our presentation up. Hey, they do it. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. But while we're waiting on the presentation to come up, I think it's a very timely, topic. I think communication is becoming a much bigger issue for all of us. We all are striving to be more relevant, I think, and have a broader outreach to our audit public. Not just, as people said, to governments, but to what we call the man on the bus, let's say. So our taxpayer, our actual EU citizens. I think it was interesting earlier what Mila said, that the second most requested topic was communication and engagement with stakeholders. And I think that shows that this is an area where a lot of SAIs are putting a lot of effort into. And I can only agree with the chair as well that, we are always striving to improve the quality of our products. But if nobody is reading them, they may not as well exist. I couldn't agree more. So some people would say, why do you invest so much in it's like a self-promotion of your institution? I don't see it as that. I see it as basically trying to inform people of what we're doing, and hopefully that it contributes to the debate in terms of improving public, financial management. So we will just flick through. I have no video of Winston Churchill, and in advance, I'd like to apologise, Mila. I didn't spend as many hours as Winston Churchill did on my preparations. I apologise in advance. So just to introduce, I think, as I said, communication is part of our strategy. It's actually one of our strategic areas that we concentrated on in our in our previous strategy, and it will be replicated, I'm sure, in the new one, which we're currently, developing. So basically, we want to communicate more around, key cross-cutting messages rather than just specific publications, because we see that there's more value sometimes in bringing a lot of audit reports together on a particular area and coming with a thematic approach, let's say. And also, we want to make more use of diverse media channels and formats. I think we all know, that the media is important. It was mentioned in the three presentations today. You referred to the media coverage of the three reports which were presented. I think it's very important. It's not the be all and end all, I would say, but nonetheless, as I said, we need to get our messages to as broad an audience as possible. And with that in mind, we have actually changed our special reports format recently. To be honest with you, some members were not particularly happy. They wanted to keep the old version because it's always difficult to change. But I think we have to move with the times, if you like. People's attention span is much less now than it was. People don't want to read 50, 60-page reports. If they want to go into the detail, that's fine, but you need to grab their attention, whether it's the media or whether it's your auditee, you need to grab their attention quite quickly. So basically what we have actually done is we don't have an executive summary and conclusions and recommendations anymore, because basically they were a duplication. We found the executive summary was at the start and the conclusions and recommendations were at the end. So now we basically have replaced that by, at the very start, we just start with what we call our main messages. So these are the messages that we want our readers to read before they get bored, let's say, and then whoever is interested from a more technical perspective to read, for instance, why we did the audit, the audit scope, the approach, they can do that later. But what we really want to get across before people, as I say, switch off is what are the main messages that we have for the audit. And as I say, it's followed by a closer look at our observations, which is the detail. So what we have tried to do as well is we're looking, Christina mentioned, graphics is becoming more and more important. Again, it's easier to show something in one graphic than maybe 5 or 6 pages of text. So we have revised the structure of the table of contents. We've redesigned boxes for improved readability and accessibility, and we use much more graphics where we can. It's trying to basically make it look more appealing, I would say. It's, we use more colors, improved readability, and we sort of want to give a modern look and visual appeal to our reports. So, as I say, in a nutshell, what we have done is we think at least we have tried to elevate the aesthetic appeal. Readability is very important, accessibility, visibility, and user experience. So we want that to be better for people. So, basically, we have now also introduced this, which is a new novelty as well. It's not mandatory for all our reports, but it's becoming most members want to do it. They add this as a one page, and this is even sort of a graphical representation of the key messages. So here we have said this is our basically recent review on the RF, which was quite technical. And here what we have just said is what are our key facts and findings in a is that the RF review? That's not it.
No, this is
This is microchips. Okay, we have another one for RF review, which if anyone wants to see, I think we have printed them off. And if anyone wants to see, I think it's a very good example. But it just gives, on one side, it gives the figures, and on the other side, it just gives the main findings. So as I say, this is we're using more and more. So again, and you mentioned it, Christina, about you have a legal framework in terms of people with disabilities. So what we have done now is for basically for one special report, although I have to say it did take a lot more resources than our normal special reports, and this is the problem. We basically, but I think it was a very good one we picked. We did a special report on supporting people with disabilities. So we thought that that was an ideal candidate for one where we made it really easy to read. And we basically liaised with, the Inclusion Europe. We took their standards and we drafted it. And it's really very simple and basic to read. So I think it was basically, in terms of inclusivity and accessibility, as we said, for people with intellectual disabilities or who have difficulty in reading. And we are now in the process of, we've selected another report on urban pollution, which it's already been published, but we will now issue a revised another edition of it in this kind of, easy to read format. So as we said earlier, I think press activities and social media, we have put a lot of effort into that in recent times. So you mentioned press releases. We issue a press release for every product. So in 2024, we issued 44 press releases. So we're almost issuing one press release a week, I would say. We have a standard structure, including a box with the main messages in bullets. The tree, see at the top there, it's very just, again, the main messages. I hope that when Mila does his review on the AI check on that we do better than 13.1, but I'm not so sure. But we really try and make it simple. We have the main messages first, then we describe the policy area. We have a quote from the reporting member, which is the catch for basically the media. This is what we put out. And we distribute them to all the media outlets throughout the EU. We have basically a list of journalists from the different member states who follow the EU budget and EU affairs. So this is the first step. We have our press release, which is issued with the report, and then we also have a large number of press briefings. So we now have the luxury. We have our own ECA studio, so we can use, because what happened during the pandemic, obviously, we used to do all our press briefings physically in Brussels, but now we do them all online. And basically, what we find is that there's much greater attendance at our press briefings because journalists can just, from home or wherever they are, they can just tap in as they wish. So we find now that we have, generally speaking, we have a fairly good attendance at all the press briefings that we have. We don't do one for every single report. We do one for the ones where we think there's more of a media interest in. And as I say, now they're done virtually, basically. So as you can see, we had 20 press briefings and 24,000 press articles in 2023. So as I say, we are really putting a lot of effort into this. It takes a lot of investment in terms of establishing relationships with the media in the member state. We have this multiplied by 27. So basically each member tries to engage in the individual member state and identify who the best media outlets would be that would be interested and basically sell our messages. So you mentioned social media, which we can't avoid. I mean, we have to be on. I mean, so we basically had 48,000 social media posts in 24, and we have 68,000 followers in different fora. We're working on that. I mean, I had a very interesting discussion recently with the president of the Commission and a couple of others, the president of the EIB, where they were wondering about TikTok. Because they were saying basically the EU institutions don't go on TikTok. And they were saying, is this a smart move or not? Going back to what you said, where you have to engage, because they said they're leaving the field completely free to the people who are anti-Europe, let's say. But I mean, that's for another day. So So basically, as I say, that's in a nutshell. As Winston Churchill said, I can't offer much more than sweat, blood and tears either, but we are trying our best. And thank you very much.